Hello, this is John Caceres, and this is my part 2 of my personal code of ethics for my IDIS302 class. So in this video, I wanted to present to you what my ethical dilemma is. It deals upon something that I've dealt with in my workspace, which is also goes with my personal life, just because where I work for my parents' business, which is something, obviously it is a workspace, but it's still something personal towards me because it is a family business. With that, I wanted to say that I do have the full decision that I ended up making at the end of this scenario, but first I wanted to give context towards the question that I'll be answering. The question I'll be answering is, when is it ethical to remove the job from somebody? Or you can also word the question as, when is it ethical to take the job away from somebody, and what are the factors that play into it? Like, I like to go on upon when you have to think about a person's personal life, when you have to think about whether or not is it better for the job or the company, and all the other questions. So to give context within the situation that I went through, my parents own a restaurant, and I am technically a manager at the restaurant, but I also work as like any other worker. I worked as a cook at the time of my old location of our restaurant. We recently moved to a bigger location, which plays a big role to this. The thing is, originally our business was a small restaurant that it just had around 14 tables, and we had about 6 servers and about like 7 or 8 cooks total. With that, my father was planning to move to a bigger location for a long time, for about a year now. And recently we moved to the bigger location about 3 weeks ago. I think we opened around the 27th of November. With that, we had to make the decision whether or not we should fire some of the old workers or make them stay into the newer location, even if they aren't fitting for the job. What I mean by this is specifically upon a server that we had. So with our smaller business, majority of our clients are Hispanics, and they usually don't tend to speak fluent English, so it's no biggie that we have some workers that don't speak any English at all. But since we were moving to a bigger location, the one issue that pops up is that we'll end up having more Americans or people who speak English as our clients. And with that becomes the question whether or not we have enough trust to bring all the servers to the newer restaurant, even if some of them don't speak fluent English. With that, it was a hard decision because I don't play a physical role whether or not who should leave and who should stay, but I at least get to have a say and I get to hear what ends up happening. So with this, I wanted to bring up the situation that happened. Basically, I had one server, we'll just call her S for now. S was pretty fluent. She was fluent in Spanish, but in English she knew a little bit, but she wasn't confident enough to create a good conversation with it. And with that, when we were training all the servers for the newer restaurant, for some of the new servers that ended up coming, we were debating whether or not she should be part of the lineup or not, because the issue is when you get to a bigger business, you tend to have to think about how our clients are going to react and how are they going to be able to give good service to the clients. We have to think about the fact that she was with us for the past 2 years, and would it be wrong or not to take the job away from her even though she's been part of us. So with that, I wanted to bring up basically my code of ethics and how that correlated to the end decision that we had to end up making. So for the first code of my code of ethics was being open-minded. So the thing is, I get a close relationship with all the servers, whether or not they're around my age or not. I always tend to be really close with the servers, and I consider them friends as well, friends and family, even if they are my workers. And being open-minded with them, I have to keep in mind everything that happens within their lives. So sometimes I have to think about whether or not if I should take the job away, even though I have a close relationship with them. Like, will that end up affecting it, or should I be more open about it and just tell them straight up, like, the problem is you don't speak enough English and we cannot accept you to come to the new job. So it is a hard decision. So that moves on to the second personal code of ethics, which is accountability, in which I feel like accountability doesn't play too much of a big role in this decision, but taking account of what I'll end up doing, it does play a role for what will end up happening. So depending on the decision, I know that if we give her the job, we'd have to take accountability of the fact that sometimes they might be inclined to put a complaint that they want a server that speaks fluent English, or we would have to take accountability whether the fact if we don't give her the job that we left not a good mark about having, even if you guys stay for a while, that there's still a chance that one of you guys workers will be knocked out. My third personal code of ethic is growth, in which this situation is a little difficult to talk about growth, because growing as a person from things like this, the only thing I can really think about is with the big decision that we end up making, you get to become stronger within telling people whether or not, okay, it's okay for you to stay, but this is gonna happen, or sorry, you can't stay because of this. Me, I learned as a person that I have to stay strong, and that this is not an easy decision, and things like this will always happen. My fourth code of ethic is confidentiality, in which I have to be confident and realize that if I want the best for what's going to happen for my family business along with my work life, I have to be confident and with my decision and understand that it will have its consequences, but I have to realize that I would have made the right decision if I really think about it deeply. Last but not least is individuality, in which that focuses on the fact that I need to focus on myself rather than others, in which it does play a big role of what the final decision ended up being. The thing is, I have to think about this is a family business, and we are only giving jobs to people, and we shouldn't have to think about whether or not if they're going through struggles in their personal lives or not, because that is none of our business. We are only here for our business, and sadly, it is the sad reality that we have to just let it be. I have to think about ourselves and our business and whether or not we can continue keeping clients in so we don't have complaints when it comes to English speakers, rather than having loyalty. With that, the end decision ended up being that we just couldn't give her the job, and although it is a very sad decision that we ended up making, it was definitely the best decision that we could have made. And I was able to predict correctly about some of the situations that actually ended up happening afterwards. One thing is, during the time of between the transition, the worker S, actually ended up having a second job in which she worked part-time over there, and she only requested 3 days to work with us. And with that, it already played a role whether or not if we should have kept her or not, because that means we'd only be giving her 3 days in the new restaurant. Secondly, I want to bring up a situation that ended up actually happening about 2 weeks ago, in which around a couple days after we first opened, we do actually have a server that also doesn't speak as fluent English, but she just has a heavier accent, but she has clear English skills. We had 2 Caucasian clients come in for the first time, and the moment they sat down, I sat them down because I was being a hostess that day. I went back to my seat to the host desk, and I saw about a minute later that they just stormed out and they just said, "No English, guys, come on, what is this?" And sadly, it's a sad thing that happens in not only this country, but just in general, just discrimination about people, even because we obviously want to offer jobs to people who are bilingual, because we can't just give someone who only speaks English because they can't deal with the Spanish clients, and vice versa. So obviously we felt bad for the server that had to deal with that, because it just kind of took away her confidence. But it made me reflect and think about the fact that if we have kept that server S, most likely that could have happened to her as well, in which it just wouldn't look good on us, because then we get complaints on things like Google, Yelp, or Facebook, and things like that. It just affects our reputation, in which I think about, wow, I decided to keep the worker for loyalty, but now it's affecting my personal life because my family business is failing and we cannot make good money, meaning that I will not be able to reach my dreams that I've always been wanting. And the sad thing is, in my code of ethics, I do really think about myself more than others, but at the same time, I am living my life for myself and not for other people. So sadly, I am self-aware of any decision I make has its consequences, but I know what is best for me in my future and my personal life. But that is all for my YouTube video. This is basically me explaining my ethical dilemma, my situation that ended up happening really recently. And I felt like making a YouTube video was the best way to showcase this, because I could explain it with more depth in words rather than typing up or doing some other thing. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much.